Well, we are focused on these midterm elections coming up in just under 3 weeks. We're talking about it all the time. We're letting you see some candidates that have a real shot of flipping some seats across the country. It's one thing to be focused on the election, and we'll do what they're doing over on the dinosaur cable networks, right, that you don't watch anymore. They'll have a bunch of pundits sitting around, or maybe some pollsters, and they'll scratch their beards and they'll tell you what they think is going to happen and try to give you a prediction. And they're treating it like a football game, right? It's like a sports cable station, and they're rooting for one team or the other, and they're trying to predict the outcome. Well, this is not a football game. This is not a game at all. This is our constitutional republic, and we're going through the democratic process of selecting our representatives, and you're a big part of that. I bet you're sitting there wondering, okay, enough with talking about these elections. What can I do beyond just voting to get in the game? And that's why we're happy to bring up Jessica Anderson. Now, she is the executive director of Heritage Action for America. And tell us about what Heritage Action is doing right now, giving people the tools to actually be a part of this election, Jessica.
Thanks so much for having me. It's really great to be here with you today. There is so much awesome grassroots activity that's going on from coast to coast across this country. We have activists that are on the ground right now in two critical states, Nevada and New Hampshire. Both of these states, the Senate majority hangs in the balance that will run through if we can flip either of those states. And activists are going door to door, and they are talking about the critical issues that are impacting voters. They're talking about the rise in inflation. They're talking about crime and safety and security, parental rights, how we can empower parents to take back the reins of their kids' schools. All of this is happening in communities at the local level, at that front door, with so many voters wondering if they're going to actually show up and turn out on these issues. So we've got that going, and it's been a really a campaign blitz the last 6 weeks. Yeah. And then we've got a really cool momentum and just grassroots energy that's happening in the state of Arizona. If anyone out there lives in Arizona, you know that you've got two incredible candidates on the ballot, Kari Lake for governor and Blake Masters for the United States Senate. Heritage Action was on the ground last week on Friday. We had a big event with special guest Blake Masters talking about the border, talking about what's needed to turn around. So it's not just the energy and the momentum that comes from these events, that comes from the door-to-door and all these great conversations. Yeah. It's now up to voters to turn out and actually show up on November 8th in a major way.
I keep hearing from the experts in this town, at least the ones I respect, who actually think are experts. They keep telling me that the difference between a simple majority for Republicans in the House and maybe a 50-50 outcome in the Senate, the difference of that scenario versus a red tsunami, like multiple seat majority in the Senate and a giant majority in the House, is all about turnout. This is a huge turnout election. What's happening at Heritage Action to make sure that turnout comes through in the states where you're focusing?
Well, we're focused pretty much exclusively right now on get out the vote. We think that these are critical issues. I mentioned some of them: inflation, crime, safety and security, jobs, parental rights. All of this is what's on the ballot. And so we are encouraging voters, both Republicans and swing voters, to get out, make a plan for vote. In a lot of these states, early voting has actually begun. And so you're starting to see people either mail in their ballots or show up at early voting locations. And that momentum, it's real. And we're going to see it not just in Arizona. We're going to see it in Georgia. We're going to see it with the gubernatorial race in Florida. And we're going to see it in these critical House races, a lot of which are actually on the southern border. You look at Casey Garcia in Texas, Monica de la Cruz Hernandez in Texas, Representative Yvette Harrell in New Mexico. These are border House districts that are feeling the pressure and frankly are vulnerable from the open border. And I really think they're going to turn out in a major way. We're a part of that. We want to encourage people to show up, bring friends, family, and make sure you get to the polls.
And those districts you just pointed out, those are traditional Democrat districts for one reason or another, either demographic makeup or what have you. And the fact that those are now vulnerable, they're toss-ups, they could flip easily to Republican. Not only, obviously, that's important to contribute to a larger House majority for conservatives, but it also tells the tale. It tells the tale of voters right on the border who were so fed up with these failed policies. Is this the feedback that you're getting as you go out and do your outreach?
That's exactly right. What voters are telling us at the door and in the communities that we're involved in on the border is that they've seen enough. They've seen enough of the complete lack of enforcement for border security, the porousness of the cartels and illegal immigrants just flooding their neighborhoods, really with a complete discard for American citizenship or any form of law and order. And they've seen enough. And that's why they're turning away from the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is not serious about securing the border. They are doing nothing to provide safety and security in these neighborhoods. And they see the GOP as a way to turn this around.
I love the fact that you were getting out there. Literally, you keep mentioning it, at the door, door to door, standing on the doorstep and talking to voters and finding out what matters to them and telling them that there is another way to go. Because I think for the longest time, the Republican approach has been raise a ton of money and just sort of do an airdrop. We'll do a mass mailing and we'll do a lot of TV ads, and that's pretty much it. Wash your hands and we're done. This is a new approach for conservatives, isn't it? To actually really be grassroots, literally get in there, and walk across people's front lawns to get to their front door to talk to them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you have to actually be willing to do both. Television ads, of course, they matter. They're a big part of persuasion. They hit independents. They tell a compelling story. But you have to be willing to do the deep work in communities at the grassroots level. And one of the things that Heritage Action did this year is we actually launched a partner organization called the Sentinel Action Fund. This is a super PAC that can take the policy issues that we advocate for at Heritage Action and then translate that to the candidates. So who are the candidates across the country that are actually going to advocate for everyday average Americans, for our families, for our businesses, for our individual interests, and then we can endorse them and put some of this grassroots muscle behind them. That's what we're doing in Arizona. It's what we're doing in Nevada. Nevada, by the way, is a state where 40% of the population is Hispanic. And so much of our door-to-door effort has actually been in Spanish. Our flyers are actually in Spanish as we talk to Hispanic voters that are finding a new home within the GOP tent, because, again, safety and security is not the number one issue of the Democratic Party as crime ravages Clark County in Nevada, for instance. And they are finding a really strong ally in Adam Laxalt to take over that Senate seat. Yeah,
Adam Laxalt is such an attractive candidate in Nevada. You don't hear much about that race. I think it's because it's a vulnerable Democrat seat. It's a real easy flip, I think, for Laxalt, the former Attorney General. And as the former Attorney General, he can run on law and order, because you're right. Last time I was in Clark County, that's Las Vegas, not only is crime up, but just quality of life, the tent cities and the criminal vagrancy that you see even on the Strip. People are fed up. That's why they're going to go in a different direction. So in these target areas, you've mentioned New Hampshire, Nevada, and Arizona, which are critically important to the map there. What can people there do if they want to be a part of either the Sentinel Action Fund or Heritage Action? They can actually participate, right?
That's exactly right. And there's two great ways to get involved right now. One, you can volunteer to be part of the door-to-door campaigns that are going on in these states. I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention North Carolina, which is a huge race with Ted Budd. And crime actually is the number one issue that's turning voters out for Ted Budd to hold that seat in the United States Senate. So North Carolina, don't discount that one either. And you can help by going door-to-door. But the second thing you can do, if you haven't yet signed up to be either a poll watcher or a poll worker, then we need your help. It's not too late. There are a lot of states and counties that are still accepting volunteers to be placed for Election Day now. So get in touch with your local election officials. If you go to your Secretary of Elections website in your home state, you can actually find the drop down to register and to sign up as a poll worker or a poll watcher, or get in touch with any one of our number of state directors. Heritage Action has 14 regional coordinators all across the country. You can find out who your local RC is on our map at heritageaction.com, and we'll hook you up with the people that are on the ground that are going to be the eyes and ears within these polling locations come Election Day. That's what we need. It's the best way to stop fraud. You have to follow the chain of custody of these elections. We need Constitution, freedom-loving Americans inside the room having eyes on our election system, and that's key Poll watchers and poll workers are the front lines to keep our elections secure.
Thank you, Jessica. I want to give you a hallelujah. Anybody who spent the last couple of years complaining about nefarious activities in the last election, you get off your sofa, get off your social media, and get in there and be a poll watcher. Thank you, Jessica. Great stuff. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.